Okay, let's begin the meeting then. The Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors meeting of December 11th, 2023. This meeting is being recorded. It is also available online, via video, and let's begin the meeting, I guess. Information was distributed to the board members in advance of this meeting electronically and also hard copy, and available on our website for the last week at least, probably. So let's begin with a roll call of the board of directors.
Okay. Roll call of the board. Brian Noggle.
Here.
Amir Famili.
Here.
Ted Lyons. Linda Rosenfeld. Here. Norman Cusick. Adam Mather.
Here.
Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Tom Ziller. Mark Gramus.
Here.
All right. We have 6 board members, so it is a quorum.
Okay, I have a quorum. All right, thank you very much. Let's begin with a review of the agenda and the need for executive sessions. Any changes to the agenda?
All right, so thank you. We have no proposed changes to the agenda today. We do have, fairly lengthy agenda again, but note this is our last board meeting of the year, so we're trying to get all our business done. I would like to have an executive session following the close of the regular meeting to discuss a security matter. And that's all I have.
And there'll also be a personnel matter as well.
Okay.
Different topics.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is on its way in.
Yeah.
Wait. I'd like to note under the finance administration, the LCA strategic plan. It's calling for approval there. I don't think we really need to approve that. It's just discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Was. Okay. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from November 13th, 2023.
I move that the minutes be approved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Linda and second by Amir. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving on to the next topic, public comments. This is the opportunity for anybody from the public to add any comments on items that are not on the agenda. You'll have opportunities later on to talk about agenda items. Any comments, questions?
No comments. Thanks.
Hey, Brian, thank you. All right, moving on, action and discussion items. Under finance and administration, we have 3 topics. The first is the LCA strategic plan 2023 quarterly progress report. Discussion item. It's the gray documents in our board package and digital board packet pages 8 through 14.
Okay. So for this one, we have our usual report that's in the packet. The status update on all the various milestones of things we're working on achieving this year. This time, rather than going through each of them individually, we have 2 presentations to share maybe a little bit of a deeper dive into two key areas that we don't spend a lot of time talking about. First being our asset management program, and the second being safety. And so with that, I'd like to introduce AJ Capuzzi, who's been with LCA now for 14 months. And he has a presentation to share regarding progress on our asset management program.
Great, thanks, Liesl. Yeah, very happy to give you an overview of some of the things we've been doing regarding our asset management journey and new project excellence initiative. In terms of asset management, this is some of the work we've completed in 2023. It's a broad team that's involved with this. We hired 2 new GIS staff. We've upgraded and added to our GIS with all our linear assets. And we've made a major upgrade to one of Esri's new products called Utility Network. Another major initiative for 2023 was the development of the strategic asset management plan. We just received the draft report of that, and I'll be giving you kind of an update in the ensuing slides on some of the things that we've done there. And then finally, planning and budgeting for 2024, new work that's going to take place. So just in terms of the goals and objectives for asset management, we're basically distill this down into we want to maximize our existing resources. We want to sort of invigorate staff around this principle of managing our assets as well as we can, maintaining affordable rates, instilling consistency in how we do things and how we manage all our assets across the organization, build and enhance our credibility by having a documented process by which we do things, and that's for internal credibility and for our stakeholders. And then finally, having a system by which we prioritize our work and make good investments around that priority. So in terms of some of the key elements and some of the things we've been working on, one is just the asset framework itself, defining what framework we want to use, and there are several, so I'll talk about that a little bit. We've developed an initiative policy, we've defined what an asset is, and we've upgraded and updated our inventory. We've developed the specific levels of service, and that's used in several things in our asset management plan. We've defined our risk-based prioritization. We've talked about maintenance strategies, and then finally talked about our financial assessment and planning of future upgrades. So this is basically the framework we've decided on. It's the Institute for Asset Management. They have grouped 39 elements of it into 6 core groups, and so it's a very comprehensive and involved process that we've undertaken, and yeah, we're excited. We're in the early stages of it, so it's new, but we're making good progress. So the policy that was developed early in the year includes our purpose for doing this, drivers, principles, roles, responsibilities, and then yeah, for me the most important part is just getting the buy-in of everybody involved with this at LCA. So we've got representative leaders within the organization that have signed on, endorsed it, and we're kind of rallying around this new approach. So defining an asset, you would think that might be simple, and in some ways it is. It's anything of value, but when you get into the specifics, it gets a little more complicated. So we spent some time trying to define what for us makes sense as an asset. We have some flow charts that will help us, but in summary, it's anything that we own, operate, or maintain, something that we currently have or should have preventive maintenance measures for. For the most part, there's almost exceptions to everything here, but for the most part, that's what's needed. And then I guess one of the major things was, was there a minimum cost item for which we would, would not be an asset if it was below a certain cost. We decided there were several that were low cost but still important, so we have no minimum threshold. And then finally, I think an important step for us is purging things that are currently in the system that are just not really appropriate for an asset management, consumables, lights, light switches. So we're going through that process of making sure what's in should be in and what isn't necessary should be out. So one of the things that our consultant Hazen did as part of the strategic asset management plans, they did a maturity assessment. We had a week-long series of interviews with all different departments at LCA. And their goal was to score us against those 39 elements from 0 to 5 or 1 to 5, and give us a maturity score. And the next slide is kind of the result of that. It's a very busy slide with a lot of information, but it's actually pretty helpful in terms of defining kind of where we are and where we want to go. So the inner, they call it a spider chart or a radar chart, but the inner line is where we are now. and they've given us a score in each of the 39 areas, and then the dotted line is where we want to be. So there's the gap is kind of where what we're working towards to fill the gap. And just to give two examples, one on the lower scoring and one on the higher scoring. If you look at number 25, which is down around, I guess, 7 o'clock, that's data and information management. And they scored us pretty low there because it's kind of a new thing for us. We don't have systems in place for handling a lot of our information. We have some systems in place, but there's some needs there. But then if you roll all the way up to around 12 o'clock on 39, stakeholder engagement, they gave us a very high score, recognizing all we're doing at LCA in a number of different areas, including the KISS 537 work. But yet we still want to do better. So we've got a goal to improve even beyond that. So levels of service, it's another way of saying what are our strategic goals, or what are those specific things that align with our mission. We spent a fair amount of time trying to define exactly what it is we care about, what it is we want to measure as goals. And these are things that we've been living with and working towards for years, but now we've got it in a defined 6 specific areas. So it's what you probably would expect: public health and quality, reliability or uptime, environmental stewardship, health and safety, customer satisfaction, and financial stewardship. Those will be sort of further defined, but they're sort of one of the foundational, like, bedrock elements of the plan. Is like, what do we care about? What are we basing our decisions around? And this was an important part of the planning process. So this slide gives you an overview of how we're going to prioritize our asset management work in terms of the physical improvements or capital improvements, but also maintenance. And this is a proven process by which you come up with a risk score. The higher the risk, the more attention it should receive. And it's the combination of a likelihood of failure, which is the combination of the condition of it and its performance. And then consequence of failure is the second category. It's what would happen if we lost that. And a good example is a pipeline. Let's say we've had several main breaks in this particular area. Maybe it's undersized. We know we can't get certain pressures or flows in a particular area. So that would get a low score. And then if it was in an area where if it failed, like say near a bridge abutment or maybe near a critical facility like a hospital, if it failed, it could create major consequences. That would also get so you combine those, you end up with a high score, and you use that to evaluate all your assets, and you end up with a single methodology to make decisions. Like, what are we going to work on first? What are we going to spend our time on? Where should we invest our maintenance dollars? What should be maintained more aggressively or more frequently? So that's a big thing that we coalesced around, and that's what we're going to use going forward. So this is taking consequence of failure and taking those 6 levels of service and coming up with a specific scoring system, so that when we score each system, each asset, we have a way of defining, okay, is the consequence negligible or a 1? Is it extremely high? So we went through that process, and we'll use that to now come up with a risk score. So maintenance strategies is another thing that we worked on with the strategic asset management plan. And this is kind of interesting because it's not like we want to get all our assets in that far right oval there. It's finding the right maintenance strategy for the specific asset. Some we'd be okay with it running to failure. Maybe it's a low cost asset, maybe it has no consequence. But others, like planned and predictive, we want to make sure that we're not in a crisis mode because we have to fix something in corrective mode. And then predictive is where we're using information, maybe some more diagnostics like oil testing or thermography or vibration testing to predict that something could be happening. So what the goal here is to take each strategy, apply it to the asset, and then apply that to work orders so that it gets the right strategy. So, you saw those 39, items on the framework. One of the things that LCA did prior to the SAMP and prior to my arrival was a technology roadmap. With the strategic asset management plan, we've sort of vetted that with Hazen. We've reviewed it with the team, and we've come up with a sort of an updated roadmap that now has a definition around who's doing what and when and what the predecessors are. And there's 71 activities that are summarized by these major categories. And that is now underway. So a lot of work, but it's well defined, and we have a plan. So just to conclude on asset management, next steps are to develop some specific asset management plans for three suburban wastewater plants and then Klein's Island. As I mentioned, we're scrubbing the asset inventory to purge those things that shouldn't be there. And we're working on upgrading the CMMS or computerized maintenance management system for vertical assets, and then material and parts inventory. There's a lot more that we're working on, but those are some of the highlights.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
For those risk factor that you have, how are you going to go about to make sure there is a consistency there? Because there are some human factor, and one group might consider this
Yeah.
one this, and the other group might consider that, and
Yeah.
go throw off the whole thing for
It's
you.
a good question. If you want to just flip back to the table that has the concept, that one. So this should help us. So this is more objective. It's like, you can't just say, well, that's a 5. You need to be able to defend it based on the rubric provided. I think as we go through it, having similar leaders involved in those decisions will make will enable people to see, okay, now I see why we're choosing that. But yeah, you're right. It needs to be consistently applied, but this type of scoring methodology will help. And then we have something similar around likelihood of failure. So if something's really likely to fail because it's in poor condition, we have a way to score that. So and we have a way to score different types of evidence. So pumps. So it should, we should end up with a consistent score. Thank you.
How many assets are there?
It's in the thousands. I don't know what the total number is, but it's thousands of assets. All right, we can press on from here. So the next major topic was our Project Excellence Initiative. And this is something that we've developed to put a spotlight on our projects, so our design, construction, studies in engineering and in capital works. And we're specifically looking to improve our performance in schedule, budget, a number of areas. The goal is to promote collaboration, communication, and manage our design and construction in a consistent method. So what we've developed with the help of many people, but I'd like to just mention Chris Mohan's been really helpful, helped us build out several tools, including a list tool and a Power BI tool. Phil DePaul and Amy Rohrbach were also really helpful with that. So now we have a system by which we can track all our projects, and it's got pretty much all the key information that we want to see, and I'll describe that in a moment. The other thing that I'm pleased with is, and again, just to acknowledge and sort of praise the project management team for embracing this, for the hard work that went into getting all this information together. What we do is, now the information's in there on a monthly basis. We meet and we talk about projects, and we find out what's going on, and where there's problems, we try to correct it, and we follow up the following month. So it's a management tool to help us get our projects where they need to be. So that project list I mentioned was an interim tool to get us, help us where we are now, to bridge the gap to the final tool, the permanent tool, which is a project construction management enterprise software. It's basically the next generation of software for managing projects of construction. and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. So I won't go through all of these, but you know, we've spent a lot of time getting this information together. So now we have all the projects, all the project managers, all the schedules, the budgets, and we track this on a regular basis. We track what's going on, and we're holding people accountable. Like if they're supposed to, if we're supposed to follow up with something, we're holding people accountable, and holding our consultants and our contractors accountable. So I think it's a really good tool, and it's you know something the project managers have embraced, and I'm happy with the progress so far. So I mentioned having a way of measuring performance. So we've come up with a process by which we score each project, and I mentioned already we have all our projects in the list. We have all the costs there, et cetera. But the third item on this list here is this new scoring methodology we've developed, which is intended to be very simple. In budget, schedule, and these 5 categories, are we good or are we bad? And just a score, and it translates into a dial, and it's just a way to see where things stand. And then from a more objective or numerical standpoint for our construction projects, we will be summarizing the percent of projects that are 10% or more behind schedule, and those that are 5% or more above budget with variances, and that'll be a way for us to like at a glance see what's going on. And the cool thing about the way the tool is set up is you can look at it project by project, or you can look at it by project manager, or you can look at it across the entire organization.
Are these system hooked up to Munis system? The reason I'm asking, because in SAP, right, if you put the data, all of them here in the project management, and then you can see for timing, the cost, who spent what project, so all of them talking together.
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, it's the costs are not connected, but with the enterprise software, it will be connected with Munis. This is all just manual entry for costs.
How often is it done?
Monthly.
Oh,
That's it for this one.
So Munis does not have a module for project management.
No, they're working, well, they do have it, but we're not using their module. We're recommending what I'm gonna describe in a moment, but we are gonna have a way to extract information from Munis and pull it in. So we're not entering, we just want to have one source of truth. We don't want to have data here, data there.
Chris, you had a comment to
I
add?
think Lisa and I have the same comment. Munis's project tracking is 99.9% financial only. When it gets into budgets, milestones, and actual like project management, it falls pretty short, which is, I think, why the capital team is hunting for a piece of software that can be connected through an API to pull that information back and forth real time here.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and my comment was similar, but also saying that this interim process that AJ and team have developed really is intended to be interim so that we can increase the visibility of what we want to measure, what it looks like, what it feels like to measure it, but it is a manual process every month going through and looking at the scoring and inputting this stuff. So as we work toward the Munis implementation and this project software implementation, we're probably a year and a half out to having all of that together. So having this tool developed is something that we can use in the interim period. Building that culture toward the project excellence that AJ's looking for.
As board members, one of the problems we have is multiple projects and the stages of that completion of each of those projects. We'll eventually have a tool that will help us remind us of where we are on that process and all the different projects. So when something comes up to us for approval, we can point to and say, okay, that's expected. That's where we're at right now on that one project.
Yeah. Now the answer is
The Gantt chart of all the multiple projects that are out there that require our approvals and review.
the new tool will have that. Now that was one of the specific things that we required. It needed to have that because we knew the board wanted to see the picture, particularly of the schedule, but be able to see it at a glance and be able to see, you know, where things are. So yeah, that is where we're headed. So yeah, we're excited about that. We know it was something you wanted, and this new tool will get us there. So I think we can press on.
Yeah, just a quick question. Are we going to give access to our contractors to be able to input the data, or is it only the project manager with the LCO?
No, contractors will be able, the construction module of the software, they'll be able to enter their stuff directly. Yeah. We still have to work out the invoicing, but as far as like, shop drawings and any RFIs, that's all gonna be in. So this is just, something that Chris has been helping out with tremendously. Again, kudos to Chris, he's really incredibly talented and super helpful. So we now have, you know, these metrics in a way that is helpful to me, it's helpful to management, it's helpful to the project managers. And the coming months, we'll be sharing this as part of our project reports. You'll be able to see where things stand. This is just kind of an early look at it. So, Brian's question is a good segue to this next segment on the project management, construction management software. Just something we're gonna work on is our acronyms. We have PM for preventive maintenance too, so we gotta come up with something, some way to differentiate. But anyway, this is project management, construction management. And it really is intended, and it delivers on data management, financial schedule management, contractor management, as a communication tool, and as a tool for collaborating between engineering and operations. We've talked to other utilities, we studied this in depth, and we're excited because this is what this software will help us with. It doesn't just show up and do it on its own. We have a lot on our end to contribute, but we're excited about implementing this. So yeah, just to give you a quick rundown of what we've done with this, pretty rigorous process. We've reviewed several software packages, had presentations with vendors, we had follow-up discussions with different utilities. We prepared and issued an RFP to several firms, did the whole, you know, process of contacting references, scored, ranked them. We interviewed the top 3, and we're now in like final negotiation phase, and we should have something for approval in January. And the goal is to get moving on that and get that implemented next year. So like I said, the goal for that one is implementing enterprise software next year. 2 new things I haven't mentioned are a provider evaluation system, where we have a way of measuring performance of our consultants, our contractors, and use that information to provide feedback and also to make future selections. And then a new capital planning process with new forms, new justification, just a new way of providing the capital planning process information. And yeah, happy to take any other questions you might have.
Good work.
Hey, just one question on as you implement the software system, what do you guys currently do for document management?
Yeah, so we use SharePoint. That's our that's where we are now. We also use our local drives. So that's something where we recognize, you know, a need for a consolidated place. So this PMCM software will be the repository for project data.
Yeah, you might find in the end, depending on volume, you actually need a role that all the documents pass through. Kind of because you're in the garbage in, garbage out world once you start populating these systems, unfortunately. So just kind of a heads up on that. I mean,
Yeah, appreciate that.
through these things.
Yeah,
It might be good to have a document control center, and then you can clean whatever goes into the system.
I was gonna ask Chris just to provide some feedback on that. I know you're working on some things on with data, you know.
Correct. Yeah, we're actually in the process of evaluating a full-blown SharePoint hosted document management system that does aging, retention, the whole 9 yards. Something that's been on the books for a few years here at the authority. And we've engaged with a local company that will help us design and build with existing tools and infrastructure that we already have inside. So it will allow for better organization, better searching, you know, just better ownership of documents altogether.
Well, that's, yeah, and that's enterprise-wide, and then we have this project construction wide deal, and you're right, we have to work through that. We got to make sure we get that right. Any other questions?
Just the integration between the suburban and the city. Is there a total measure, or is it separate or what?
I mean, you're talking about the software, so yeah, so we'll be able to differentiate between the projects. We are planning it for both suburban and city, and yeah, it will be we'll be able to define city and suburban by some differentiation, and there probably will need to be some cost. You know, as we implement it, there'll have to be some way of differentiating the cost of what's the city cost versus suburban cost of the software implementation, but I think we'll get that.
Sounds very impressive, and made substantial progress on developing this, so very good.
Yeah, so I wanted to give AJ the opportunity to present because we haven't talked about the progress on this program much throughout the year. We've been focused on some of the other items in our strategic plan. But leading up to even before AJ was hired, a lot of internal work has gone into just developing concepts and buy-in and internal teamwork around asset management. And now having the framework put together and the teamwork that's occurred, it's a lot of just internal conversation and getting on the same page. But I think we've made a lot of really good progress this year. So,
All right. Any other comments, questions, or?
We have a second presentation, slightly shorter maybe, but it depends on the discussion regarding safety. And we wanted to provide a bit of a wrap on 2023 performance and some of the things that we're seeing. Before I open the presentation up, I want to acknowledge Ed Klein, Andrew Moore, who's online, and Chris Mon in the room, and really providing internal leadership, and there's several others as well. Lisa has been a big part of the team as well. So I'm not sure who exactly is doing the presentation, but there's three people in the room who
I have the biggest mouth, so I'll start. I have the biggest mouth, so I'll start. So we're going to do a wrap up of 2023 for the safety program at the authority. The numbers are substantially different than you've seen historically, and we do believe we have cause to explain through that. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through some of the metrics that we collect, some of the information that we collect, and how we've been providing a more focused set of eyes on safety at the authority. So one of the biggest things that we did was we formed a new EHS committee this year. And up on the screen, you can see the members. Ed Klein is our chair, myself, Andrew, Anne Marie Still, Kevin Gurman, and Lisa. Everybody on the committee has been doing an amazing job. I really want to thank Lisa for kind of keeping us all on track and organized. We're going to jump into the metrics that we've started collecting this year. So this is another dashboard that was built to collect data based on safety, that all the safety incidents that we have going on at the authority currently. It's a real-time dashboard. We have a system behind it that as incidences come through, they get input into the system, and this dashboard will record that and allow us to see, as these things are entered in, changes in the different types of metrics. The next subsequent slides kind of dig into each of those categories in some form or fashion. So to date, we've had 30 recordable occurrences this year compared to a total of 7 for 2022. And you can see broken down by department the counts for each of those. Occurrences over time, again, company-wide, we had 6 in Q1, 10 and 10 for Qs 2 and 3. And as of now, we have about 4 in Q4. So here's where we start kind of talking about the actual occurrences. Count by a high severity. We have had 4 high severity items that we consider a high severity item lost time. So anybody that has an injury and actually misses work and we cannot find work for them to do internal is considered high severity based through OSHA definition. We've had 4 so far for the year. 2 shoulder injuries, 1 muscle tear, and 1 knee injury. And for the remainder of the injuries for the year, by medium and low severity, 10 of them were vehicle incidences. So notice we don't call them accidents. An incident is, you know, Amir is in the pickup truck and he backs into a parking post and he cracks a taillight. You know, it's not necessarily an accident, but it's something that we want to start keeping closer track of throughout the year. So we've had 10 vehicle incidents, 14 injuries that require minimal medical attention or no treatment whatsoever. And we had 1 near miss. So I think the trend you're going to start seeing here is related to count in the previous years to count in this year moving forward is with the board's, you know, kind of encouragement and upper management's really kind of more focused view on what we're doing. What you're seeing now is everything being reported as we would want it to be, even near misses, because historically, a lot of those 14 injuries that required minimal medical attention or no treatment at all would have been ignored. And we don't want to do that. We're making it perfectly clear to all the team members here at the authority that if there are situations where they even get a light injury that just requires a sore bicep for the afternoon, fact of the matter is we want to address the issues that they're doing and what they're working on in any way that we can make it better for them. So we're going to continue through our metrics. You know, breaking down the occurrences even in more detail, we've had 3 first aid, 3 with no treatment, 4 lost time that we talked about, 8 medical attention, and occurrences by department. Plans had 2, the admin, which includes customer care. Our field staff in customer care is part of the admin count here, and 13 in the field services department. So this was kind of Ed's baby. He really wanted to do a better job of what injuries are happening so we can do better tracking on that. And you're going to see a very, very noticeable trend here in this one, which something that we haven't been able to kind of put our finger on in previous years. We had 1 burn, 1 pinched finger, 2 that are just kind of unclassifiable, 2 puncture or foreign object. So that's somebody got something in their eye. So they had a foreign object in their eye, and 12 strain, pull, or bruise. So right away, the metrics that we started collecting early on in the year have led us to a large chunk of the issues that we've been seeing with our field personnel. And again, injury types by department, these same categories up above. Field services has 13, admin 3, and plants 2. So now I know the board was always thought we did a decent job of keeping track of everything, but I think what we lacked a little bit of was follow-up, follow-through, and how we're going to handle incidences moving forward. So what we're doing now is we have corrective action templates, and the EHS committee itself, every time we have a meeting, we review the accidents that happen. We talk about the root causes of those accidents. We do interviews with people involved, supervisors that may have been witnesses, and subsequently we come up with a corrective action plan. We listed 2 here for some of the more severe, what we would consider more severe items. A bicep tear, when someone was stepping out of our excavator, their boot slipped off the tread and their hand got hung up on the handle. And as they fell, it ripped their bicep muscle. So throughout the investigation, it was determined that if we pivot the cab of the excavator 30 degrees to the right, it opens up the full tread so they can actually get 3 points of contact as they're climbing down from the machine. So if you walk back and look at our excavator now, you'll see that it is parked at a 30-degree angle. So any employee climbing up or climbing down can have 3 points of contact, a foot and 2 hands. The one on the bottom, this one might interest you a little bit, Brian. And this happens regularly, come to find out. But in the city, in the older parts of the city, they used to use the plumbing system as the ground rather than driving a ground rod into the earth. So what happens on a fairly normal basis was one of our field employees would reach down to start working on a system and get wrapped. So the first time it happened under the EHS watch committee, we stopped the job dead in its tracks. We had PP&L come out and do an emergency investigation for us. They were able to get us safely bypassed on that system and had subsequent training and documentation from PP&L to write up an SOP, put different types of equipment in all of our field service guys' trucks. So now they are well aware to wear our heavy duty insulated gloves. We have a special piece of equipment that measures whether there's any sort of voltage or amperage moving through the live lines. And if there is, we have stuff in place that we can mitigate that so we can work safely on the lines in the ground.
Chris,
Yes,
can I ask a question?
absolutely.
For this incident, you say this happens somewhat frequently, or it's, common in the city, this grounding issue.
Yeah.
This incident, was the employee injured?
No, it was a non-injury item. It was, and frankly, the employee himself was not even shocked. He was shocked by it, but he was not, like, it happens often enough that it was expletive, you know what I mean? And everybody standing around the hole was the same way. And I was like, what's that about? And I was like, oh, that happens fairly often here in this part of the city because they didn't use grounding rods. They literally would jump the service line to the copper feed to the house.
So this is the kind of incident that maybe in 2022 would not have been.
Absolutely. I couldn't even tell you how many times it happens previously because it was a non-item to them. It was just part of their work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Excellent, Lisa. And I probably should have mentioned it, but that's a great point, right? So you see these high spike in numbers for 2023, and I believe it's because we have such a laser focus on safety now. I want to talk a little bit about vehicle occurrences. No, there was only one injury from all the vehicle occurrences we had, and that was a major accident.
Excuse me for interrupting, I have a question.
Oh, please.
Maybe a stupid question.
Never.
So when we talk to our insurance companies and we share this data, do they tell you what data to share, or do you kind of set the agenda in terms of discussions or?
So I honestly don't have an answer for that. I would say that Ed might, and historically,
What they're used to seeing from us is just a claim. So basically, we're not really sharing this kind of
Okay,
data.
I'm just curious whether
Yeah,
they
it's,
wanted to see what we're doing on our end.
yeah, this is for our purposes so that we could look and see.
No, I get that. I just was curious if the
Yeah,
insurance company
and
would be interested in this.
for them, it would be whatever they see in a claim.
Thank you.
Can just building on that, can we be proactive in talking to our insurance company about the extra measures we are taking to provide a safe environment for our employees? Would that be helpful in our premiums or not?
It's always helpful to go out and talk with an insurance carrier about the programs that you're undertaking. I mean, sometimes they can point you in some directions as well. But the proof in the pudding is not having the accidents occur at the same rate that they're occurring now.
Bottom liners, yeah.
Yes.
Point.
And I think we have the insurance on the claim side, but we also have the workers' comp, which is different company, and they do look at some of this a little bit more or a little bit differently.
Yes, Divot is a different group because they have a number of safety programs themselves. I know our crew looks at a number of different videos with respect to programs, safety, behavior, safety rules and regulations. So they're more on the workers' comp side, and as we're dealing now with the vehicles, but there's, going back to the employee injuries that Chris put up there, they want to know what we're doing with respect to this kind of activity, especially in terms of people that are having to go see a doctor where there's a workers' comp claim. I mean, it's important for them to also see the same thing. It would be really good if the amount of claims for serious injuries goes down because you're doing some of this work in-house now.
Mark has his hand up.
Mark, you have a question?
Yes, thanks. Ken, one of the things I think you went back into this previous slide or the slide before where you had the near misses. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that you have a larger number this year maybe than last year, because you're getting more in the habit of reporting things that might have not been reported in the past. Not to say that the problems weren't there, but people are becoming more aware of the safety culture that you're trying to implement or are implementing, and encouraging people to report. The number of getting the crews to report near misses has been, in my experience, has been a vital part of a good safety program, because that's how you really prevent those accidents from happening. So my question is, how do the managers, what incentives, if any, do you really put forward to your staff as far as encouraging people to report near misses? Because that's really being proactive, and that's the part of a good safety culture.
Thanks, Mark. That's a great point. And honestly, the only incentive that we're offering them is a safer work environment. We're not operating any sort of 100 days with zeros. Honestly, we're not. I think what we're doing more and more now is driving it home. You know, at the end of any like overnight main break or anything, that we do what we call postmortems. We talk about the job, good, bad, what happened, and safety comes up every single time anymore. On the way out, I don't know if anybody ever watched Hill Street Blues. You know, we always have our morning kickoff, and in the morning we always wrap up with, all right, let's guys be safe out there. And we're just encouraging all of our employees to be more open about safety. We always say that we don't blame an employee for a safety issue. We blame the situation for the safety issue. And what we need to do is train our employees better. So as far as the incentive, Mark, I mean, I think it's just to be safer, to make sure you go home with all of your fingers and toes and you get to see your family.
Yeah, that's number one. But maybe next year we could think a little bit about some sort of corporate safety something. And the other thing is the flip side to that is, how much value do you place on my ability to go home? So, I think that's good that you're emphasizing the culture part in safety, and as far as safety amongst the workers themselves. But the other question is, how long does it go? Like when there's a near miss, is that reported like the next day? And is that dispersed among the various departments? So people know right away, or is there like a lag? Does it wait 2 weeks? Does it wait, is it something that's reported within 48 hours or 24 hours?
We kind of push everybody to report as soon as they can. So, generally speaking, after like an overnight job, they'll come back and they'll fill out any incident reports that they need to when they're back in the shop. Everybody does have the ability to fill out forms in the field. We all have mobile devices, iPads, everything we've created is kind of digital friendly. But we don't put a time limit on anything, Mark. We're just happy that those items are being reported themselves. There have been times where employees have come back and asked the manager or a supervisor, hey, X, Y, and Z happened. Do you think that's a near miss, or how should we report it? And that's how we end up with the one that we have there. It was a near miss. Nobody got hurt, but the fact of the matter is it could have gone bad. So we decided to call it a near miss. And honestly, I'd rather call something a near miss and put something in place to try to fix it rather than ignore it and have something happen.
Yeah, exactly. And then one last follow-up. You mentioned about the lack of, grounding rods by the water meters in the city. Is the city made aware of that? The city inspectors, that the building inspectors, when they look around the building for anything, that there should be, some sort of a grounding rod attached, or.
I honestly don't know that I could answer that, Mark. These are all, it's in the center part of the city, the older buildings, and unless work is being done and they're pulling permits to redo electricity, I doubt that part of the infrastructure is being inspected.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just went through this with my late mother-in-law's house.
Right.
So we had an issue with PP&L, and some things had to be replaced, and things that were grandfathered, really don't have that anymore. So, there were certain things that were update. So it's interesting. I was just wondering if the building inspectors had notification on anything. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Also, Jeff Morgan raising his hand. Jeff, want to comment?
Yeah, just a quick question, and maybe this is somewhere ahead. I didn't check ahead, but I know the goal for the whole safety program is to get down to, minimize accidents and get as close to zero as possible. But Chris, are there any numbers out there for the size of the organization that shows, what's typical? Even though we want zero to be the goal, is there anything out there that you can compare that for the size of LCA with the number of employees that having a certain amount of incidents is below normal, above normal, anything like that?
I believe the AWWA puts out a paper, and we participated historically with the financial parts of it. To be honest with you, this year we were so focused on data collection, Jeff. This will be a great thing that we can put in our dashboards for 2024, where we fall percentile wise with other similar utilities of our size.
If I could add to that, Chris, yeah, the American Water Works Association does have a benchmark that we have measured against in the past. And our workers' comp trust also does that and kind of tries to normalize it for the size of the organization. I think what we haven't done is press our new data up against those metrics. So in the past, we've looked pretty favorable compared to other utilities or municipalities of our size. Now with a higher incident rate, we might look a little different next year.
Well, and the fact is, we're trying to get more in tune with the way that OSHA defines injuries. And what that should give us the ability to do is to compare the data that's now defined right and make it comparable to other businesses that it's the same size in terms of amount of business and the number of people. So I think that, ultimately we want to be able to compare ourselves to anybody in the private OSHA world and say, we're either good or we need to do some more work. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Chris, you ready to continue?
Sure. I think we're getting near the end. And here's just a couple of the things, what we would consider accomplishments this year. Formation of the EHS committee was huge, and it was at the behest of the board. We're reviewing current safety policies for each department and location because they are different. We have, very distinct different jobs and roles inside this company. So as a committee, we're going through them. We did an extremely intense confined space training where guys had 4 hours of actual confined space, real life simulation with lights and smoke and sound. We had 89 of our employees go through that to make sure that the work that they're doing here is done in a safe manner. Currently, we're in the process of offering AED, CPR, and first aid to all employees who are willing to take it. We're highly encouraging all employees to sign up for it. And again, a much more focused look at what we're doing for safety here at the authority. So that's everything. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure we would all be happy to answer.
Thank you. I think that was great progress in that as well. So happy to hear that we're being more careful with what we're doing out there. Our employees should be much safer. Anybody else on the board have any comments?
Yeah, Chris and the team, I think, thank you for digging through the data. I think when you have a problem, you have to first know what the problem is before you start putting a solution in place. I think the terminology that we use for defining incident is very crucial. I think we have to be very specific to say which one is a recordable, which one is a lost time, and which one is a near miss. So for example, those grounding is all near miss, right? So I think it's very essential that we define that based on the OSHA, because then the language, you say incident, accident, this and that, it becomes very difficult.
So if I can counter you a little bit, we didn't mark it, and I can tell you exactly why we didn't call it a near miss, because an employee was actually shocked. So there was an incident that didn't require medical attention, but there was not a no incident. So the employee did get shocked, right? So, I mean, by rights, if that was 440 and it was pulling heavy amps, he could have been legitimately hurt.
I can buy into it.
He was buzzed.
I can buy into it, but you know, I'm just, my point is that consistency on the definitions. You know, so how many safety meetings, for example, operation that have their own safety meeting, is that correct? And then field service have their own safety meeting, correct? And who leads those safety meetings?
So supervisors run the monthly safety meetings. They are held at our water plant, wastewater plant, and the field services. And then subsequently, those notes and information feeds back up into the EHS committee, and we review those.
So who connects those safety meetings together?
Ultimately, the EHS team does. We look for kind of like issues that we're seeing throughout the departments and subsequently address them as they pop up.
If I could just supplement, we do have a risk manager, Kevin Herman, who sets the agendas for each of the on-site meetings, the committees for each building. And Lisa is the thread that runs through, she attends all of those as well as the EHS committee, and Kevin as well. So Kevin and Lisa are doing both sides of it. And then also just kind of looking into the future, Kevin's role is risk manager, which carries a lot of different kinds of things, but in the future, it will become a true safety manager position. So that's where that.
Just from my experience, what we did for each safety meeting, the safety lead went to the system, EHS system, and pulled all the near misses, right? And then select, you know, we had like a 200 near misses, right? And we select the top 5 or 6, and the safety lead brought it and shared with the group so they know, hey, this is such a near miss happened to such a group and it could happen to us, right? So in order to get there, you have to have near misses, right? And that only comes from emphasis that team has to put together, encouraging people to put near misses together, right?
Yes.
And I shared that with Lisa, just for example, I don't know, I think I gave like $50 or $100 budget to each safety team and said, reward $10 Panera Bread gift card for the best near miss reporting. Right? And we started getting, I was walking in the hallway and the coffee spilled, people could slip. But that was encouragement to have people to start reporting near miss. So you got to start having incentive of people reporting the near misses. Huh? Yeah, good.
Yeah, like, and Mark brought up, kind of a similar concept, and I had a thought then, and it's still with me, that, I think we've come a long way over time, because, in the past, we were doing, financial rewards for low safety incidents, which was almost became a disincentive for reporting, because you don't want to report a safety incident if it means your bonus money is going away. So that program has gone away. But I think we've seen an evolution also just toward taking away the disciplinary kind of approach around safety, where maybe that's how some incidents were handled in the past. So I think it's been an evolution. Now there's the threat of discipline is not really the first thing on everybody's minds, which is a huge shift for us. And then if we get into some sort of incentive in the future, I think we'll talk about that.
Okay, very good.
Good progress, thank you.
Thank you very much.
No.
We need to move on.
We do need to move on. I just want to kind of wrap up this whole one. This has been one topic, but we've covered a lot of different items with the asset management program. The things that AJ reviewed are specific to what's in our strategic plan for 2023. The safety items are also specific to what we wanted to accomplish in 2023. The other items that are in the strategic plan report are things that we've talked about somewhat regularly related to the Munis project and wastewater capacity, some of the operational projects. So along the way, if you have any questions on those, you can just shoot them to me, and but appreciate the extended time to review those 2 specific areas.
2 very important areas too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, first.
All right, can we move on?
Yes.
All right, the next item under finance administration is capital works planning room organizing. secure storage and digitizing phase 2, seeking approval. Salmon documents in our board package, digital board packet pages 15 to 17.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Matt Dorner is going to present this project for board consideration and authorization. It's the second phase in an effort to scan all our archive plans, all our as-bills, everything. We went through an initial phase where 18,000 drawings were scanned, and this is for the remaining 14,000. So I'll let Matt get into the details. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good to be here. So as Chuck said, this is the second phase and we'll finalize the work that is being done. Reynolds Business Systems, they come pick up all of our old rolls of plans that we have, take them back to their facilities, scan those plans, and they can actually improve the quality of those plans in some cases if there's fading or other issues. They can digitally enhance that. So the saved product is actually better. And it's obviously very important for us that a lot of these old plans aren't, don't completely get destroyed or, the data that's on them disappears. So this is something where they'll scan that and we'll have that forever. Be able to very easily find that information we need faster than going through boxes and boxes, looking through pages of plans. They will set it up. They're going to manually index it in a way that names what the plans are and describes what we're looking for and make it easy to find. And like Chuck said, they previously have done approximately 18,000 pages of these old drawings. We're estimating about 14,000 are left to complete everything that we have here up to date, and they will return those to us completely packaged up that we will store in case there's ever any reason we need to go back and check those again. But with the scanning, that will all be computer accessible, and we'll be able to get that information whenever we need it. That's a summary of what we're looking at.
You answered my question though. My question was, what do we do with the old plans? But you're saying we still keep those?
They'll box them all up nicely and we'll bring them back. We're planning exactly where we're going to store them, someplace that is safe and won't get wet. But hopefully we won't need to look at those often, but we'll have them just in case.
There could be an isolated situation where you can't read the scan. Like Matt said, they'll try to enhance the quality where they can, but some of the plans are in pretty bad shape. They're torn, they've been taped over the years, and you might have to find that piece of paper at some point. Hopefully that's minimal.
And those boxes will be labeled and things like that, and we'll set it up in a way that we can go find those in those rare instances where we need to go look for them.
So we're asking for a professional services authorization in the amount of $90,000 for Reynolds Business Systems.
Thank you.
How much did the last one cost? I'm just curious.
That's 79,000 and change.
For fewer,
less.
for fewer.
Yeah.
It is for fewer, yeah.
But when we take over a small package systems, then do we get adequate drawings? Is that a problem?
Well, we do ask for electronic drawings where possible, and those are put on our network. If those are available, if not, we get paper as-bills.
Okay, thank you. We have before us a professional services authorization for rental business, $90,000. For capital works planning room organizing, secure storage and digitizing phase 2. Need a motion in a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve.
Thanks, Mark. We'll give it to you. And Amir for the second. How's that? Okay. Okay, good. Are there any questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is resolution number 12-2023-1, customer facility fees and connection fees, seeking approval, purple documents in our board package, digital pages 18 to 23.
All right, this is hopefully something familiar to most of you, something we do every year. By the end of the year, we have updated meter pricing for the upcoming year. And so as part of the tapping fee legislation, these customer facilities fees, when we charge someone a meter fee for a new connection or a tap fee for a new connection, those are considered tapping fees that need to be adopted by resolution. So the attachment to the resolution just shows the details of the specific costs and the labor that goes into the fee that we charge for those situations. This would be, if approved, would be incorporated into the existing rate schedule that you saw last month with the other rates. But because they are considered tapping fees, they need to be approved by resolution. If any questions, it should be fairly straightforward.
What's the difference between this year and last year?
Somewhat minimal, it's within 5%. Some of the components went up, some of them went down, so they're kind of, it just depends on the equipment pricing for the most part. And then we have our labor increase, which is like 2.25% or 2.5%, depending on the use of the contracts.
Okay, all right. So we have before us resolution number 12-2023-1, establishing the various components of the Lehigh County Authority capital recovery fees for the city division water system connection fee and customer facilities fees for the city division water system and the suburban division water and wastewater systems. Right? Any questions? A motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Linda, the motion and seconded by Ted. Are there any questions?
Hey, Brian, it's Jeff. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So no question on this item, but just wanted to jump in before the next three items. Since they're big ticket items, if you could just remind us again, Ed, how they're being paid for. Maybe you intended to do that anyway, but I didn't want to have to ask the question three times. So I appreciate that.
Okay. You have your marching orders. All right, so we now have the resolution made and seconded, and we have a vote, and we have to tally the votes. So do a roll call on the votes, please.
A vote on resolution 12-2023-1. Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Amir Famili,
Yes.
Ted Lyons,
Yeah.
Linda Rosenfeld,
Yes.
Kevin Baker,
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
Mark Gramis.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Moving on now to water. We have one topic, water filtration plant filter upgrade project seeking approval. Green documents in the first package, digital pages 24 to 36.
Okay, Amy Rohrbach is going to present this project, and I'll just say at the outset, this is an ARPA-funded project. So the city was successful in getting American Rescue Plan money, so that's being applied to this project. This is to replace the under drains and the media in 8 filters, which have been in operation since the 1950s. So they're about 70 years old. This is a project that was a near-term project in the 2017 master plan. So it's very much related to asset management, very important to extend the service life and the level of service for the filter plant to upgrade and rehab these filters. So I'll let Amy get into the details.
I'm just gonna jump, yeah, I'm gonna have my finger up. I just want to jump in
I
on,
didn't see your.
sorry. On the funding piece, just to kind of round out your explanation that, to Jeff's question about where the money's coming from. So the city of Allentown is contributing ARPA funds for this project, but they are contributing, I'll say roughly 50% toward the project, because the remainder of the project will be funded through LCA's suburban division rates, because we share the cost in proportion to how much water we're purchasing from the Allentown system. So that's where the money's coming
Okay,
from. For the
thank you
project.
for clarifying that.
Yeah, sure thing. 50% is not the right exact proportion, but it's, you know, in that range.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Amy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're here today for capital project authorization for the construction contracts. There's two, general and electrical, as well as a professional services agreement with our consultant Hazen and Sawyer for construction phase engineering services during construction. So we put this out to bid October 17th, and we held a mandatory pre-bid on October 24th, which was very well attended. There was, I don't remember the exact number of contractors who were present, but it was a lot. We received 7 bids on November 22nd, right before Thanksgiving. And 5 were for the general construction contract, and there were 2 for electrical construction. The apparent, or the low bidders, Eastern Environmental for the general construction at $6,968,600. And Orlando Diefenderfer at their low bid of $455,000. They are both contractors I personally have had experience in the past with. I know LCA has worked with Eastern at the pretreatment facility, and Diefenderfer has done many projects with LCA. Currently, they're working at the Klein's Island on the boiler project. So we have had experience with both, and they've both done outstanding work. So there's no concerns. And I know if you look at the bid pricing, you might see Diefenderfer was a lot lower than their competitor. I did speak personally with Diefenderfer, and they assured me that they stand behind that pricing. And part of that is because of the fact that they are only a mile away from the plant. So they have less travel time and less overhead in their project manager costs because they are so close. So we see no reason why we should not proceed with the contracts for both those contractors. And then we also have a contract with Hazen and Sawyer professional services agreement for the engineering construction services during construction. They will be subbing to water service professionals for the construction inspection on site during the filter construction, the under drain installation, the media installation, as well as startup of each filter. Water service professionals has they know our plant. They are at the plant inspecting our filters on a regular basis, as well as they are very experienced with this particular under drain. So we felt that having them on site would be in the best interest of LCA and give us the best product at the end. Any questions? The total prices, so it's $6,968,600 for the electrical, the general construction, $455,000 is the electrical, and $499,378 is the engineering services. With all the miscellaneous costs in there, our cost, LCA costs and everything totals $8,447,978. That's what we're requesting.
I'll just add, the engineering contract appears pretty high, but I just want to let you know that this project is going to be at least 2 years in construction. It can only take one filter down at a time. So it's a very time consuming project and involves a lot of on-site inspection by, like Amy said, the sub-consultant is going to be on site for each filter at least 4 times to do, for like half a day per visit. So there's a lot of time built in there.
But in the write-up, you have that in July, they give you an estimate of 5.6, and now it's jumped to 8.4. Is that the correct statement?
That is correct. That initial estimate was when we went to the city with our substantial completion. But when we we're ready to go out to bid and we received revised costs from the vendors, the costs did escalate quite a bit. And hence the increase in costs.
You said almost 40%, 35 some percent. So
The
that's
estimate,
something-
the estimate was on the high side because the bids actually came in under that at 8.7 million estimate. So, we're somewhere in the middle there.
We feel the bids we got competitive bids. We were a bit shocked at the escalation and the engineer's estimate from the time of substantial design completion submission to the city until the design was finalized, and I think they used some old pricing perhaps. There's a lot of stainless steel as part of this project, 316 stainless steel for the under drains. And I think they used some old pricing that increased significantly since that time.
Then the reason we pay money to Hazen to make sure those things that the bids are for the correct things. I mean, they're getting $500,000 for that, right?
You mean for the construction phase services?
Well, I mean, the person who went and got the bid is Hazen for the whole thing together, correct or not? What is the role of Hazen here?
Oh, they were the design engineer.
The design engineer went out to get the bid, or they got to give it to us and we got the bid?
But the bids were solicited on pen bid.
Okay.
Okay, but like we solicit all the bids. It's a online municipal bidding platform. That's how, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you initially.
I was trying to figure out the numbers. The initial $5.6 million, was that just for the general construction contract, or was it for the whole package?
I believe
That was
that's
general and electrical.
So, okay, so that came in then at 7.5 then with those two items. So it went from 5.6 up to like 7.5.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah. And the 2017 master plan quoted a cost of 12 million. So
The bargain.
right, it's a relative market.
Okay, all right. Okay. No, I
To follow up on
understand.
that, to be the depth, but when you have a big bust like that on the budget versus the actual, does the engineer who made the estimate, do they get in the weeds of this at all and trying to find out where they blew it?
Yes, yes. And Amy and I went round and round with the engineer trying to determine where the busts were, and they were in multiple places. With materials and some of it was the construction complications that maybe they didn't take into account. The fact that we could only take one filter down at a time. I don't know, there's some drivers in this that.
Well, it'll be good knowing because you plan ahead on these things and all of a sudden you have a bust like this. And you've got to do it. These
Yeah.
filters have to be fixed.
Particularly if it's a one-year project and you budgeted X amount for 1 year. We are spreading it out over at least 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, but it's still a big bust.
So I mean, the filter is gonna be down for two years?
No, just one at a time. There's 8 of them, so they'll be down one at a time, and some of the work is seasonal dependent. We think we can take a filter down in every season of the year, but in summertime when the demand is more, we're gonna have to see how that goes.
One final comment. When you see a delta like this on the electrical, the high bidder did bid it. This is not travel time down Martin Luther King Drive that adds a couple $100,000 to the project. The other guy just got busy. He dropped in a courtesy bid. I'm sure Diefendorfer's bid is a good one, by the way, but just for the good of the order, that when you see disparities like this in the construction bid, this isn't overhead and profit, it's not travel time, it's a lack of interest.
Yeah, I agree. They just threw a number at it.
They threw a number.
Same with
Which is fine.
the two highest GC bidders.
Yeah, they're just, nonsense bids, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? We have before us, Allentown Division Water Filtration Plant Filter Upgrade Project Construction Phase, Capital Project Authorization, Construction Phase for $8,447,978. That includes the cost of professional service authorization to Hazen Sawyer at $499,378. And a general construction contract of Eastern Environmental Contractors for $6,968,600. And an electrical construction contract award to Orlando Defender for electrical for $455,000. All right, those are the three contracts. Total amount. Motion and a second.
Second.
We got Ted on the motion and Amir on the second. Thanks. All right, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. All right. Now under wastewater, we have 1, 2, 3 items, and the first one is Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station and Force Main seeking approval. There's a pink document in our board package, digital pages 37 to 43.
Okay, I'm presenting this on behalf of Amy Kunkel, who is on vacation, so I'll do my best on this project. What this project is, this is one of the recommendations in the 2021 interim Act 537 plan that Phil was instrumental in getting approved from DEP in June 2021. And this is the construction of what we're calling a dry day pump station to pump about 2.5 million gallons of flow around Trexlertown to tie into an Upper Macungie manhole near their park off of Grange Road. So the pump station will pump through an 8,000 linear foot force main, thereby removing 2.5 million gallons per day of wastewater from what we call the Trexlertown bottleneck. And that's the area roughly behind the fire company and behind the 1760 grill and down to Spring Creek Road, where we frequently have dry day overflows and common dry day surcharges. So this will relieve that condition. It's been called an interim pump station until a longer range solution is implemented in the Western Lehigh Interceptor. But what we did is we commissioned firm Entech to design pump station and force main, and we're currently finalizing land acquisition issues related to the pump station site. But we wanted to, in the interest of time, to bid the force main component of this project and get that moving. And then in Q1 next year, we'll be coming to you with construction phase authorization for the actual pump station. So we bid this project in October. It was advertised, and we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting in early November, and the bids were opened on November 17th of last month, and we got 8 bidders. We got very competitive bidding. The bids range from 1.9 million to roughly $4 million. The low bid submitted by Pact One LLC. We've worked with them before. That they did a water main replacement project for us. They're doing one for Cycle 7 Suburban. They were recently awarded that. They've been involved in some prior LCA projects. They are well qualified for this project. It's what they do, linear asset replacement projects. The low bid was was below the engineer's estimate. Pretty much the engineer's estimate was around the median of the bids submitted. So we've got a really good price on this one. I think it perhaps reflects an economy where there's some hungry contractors out there, so we're willing to take full advantage of that. So today I'm asking for bid authorization for the construction contract of 1.9 million, and then construction phase authorizations for the engineer at 85,000. And then I'm also asking for a professional services amendment, and I'll go through that. It's some additional unforeseen costs that came up during design phase that we require a design phase change order on that. The professional services that were provided, the additional services were paying the permit fees, which were not originally in the engineer's scope and amounted to over $13,000. That there were additional surveying and hydraulic calculations that the township requested to be performed downstream of the township manhole over off of Grange Road. So we had to look at the downstream hydraulics to make sure it wouldn't cause a problem surcharging the township system. There was also coordination with the NPDES construction permit. We are sharing detention basin with the adjacent Jandal development. That was not originally envisioned in the project. And there were a lot of permitting hoops to jump through with the Lehigh County Conservation District related to the sharing of that detention basin. There were also some adjustments that the township required to the line in the vicinity of their park that our engineer addressed. And lastly, they separated the bidding documents because we were originally going to bid everything at the same time with the pump station, but because of the need to finalize some acquisition issues at the pump station site, like I said earlier, we're going to bid that in Q1 of next year. So those are the additional costs that were incurred by the engineer in the amount of $53,508. And we feel those costs are justified. So we're asking the board to approve that PSA amendment along with the other construction phase authorizations.
I have a question. Why wouldn't they have included the $13,000 permitting fee?
For the permitting fees, because oftentimes we pay them.
It wasn't specified in there.
No, it wasn't specified. I think I don't know, an assumption was made at the time that we were gonna pay them, and there was a little confusion. Their project manager, they just paid them. And it kind of, it was a little bit of a communication issue that they paid them. I mean, we would have spent the money regardless.
Yeah.
That cost has not been marked up. That's the straight permit.
Good. Your hand is raised.
Yes, I have 2 items just to add. First of all, to remind the board that at the last meeting, we did approve the sewage transportation agreement with Upper Macungie Township to allow this to happen. And we've since heard that both Upper Macungie and Lower Macungie have also the agreement. So we're good on that front. To Jeff's question about the funding for this project, this project, Ed, you can jump in on your thoughts as well, but I wanted to highlight that this project is one that was subject to the H2OPA grant application, and we are still awaiting state determination of the grant awards for all of the applications we did for those grants. So if we're able to receive the grant money, that is how we will pay for the bulk of this project. If we are unable to receive that grant money, Ed?
We're gonna end up borrowing.
Yeah. And that was what was included in the capital
In
plan.
the capital plan, we said if we didn't get that funding, we would have to incorporate that into the borrowing, so.
And this is for dry weather conditions, and under wet weather conditions, this actually gets shut down so we don't overcharge the.
Yes, how this station is going to be controlled, there's gonna be a sensor in a downstream manhole on the Upper Macungie line. Not the tie-in manhole because there's too much turbulence in there, but a downstream manhole. And when the level comes up to a level of service that the township engineer determines is the maximum, that will shut our pump station off.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I just noticed that the top 5 bidders were all under what the engineers said it was gonna be the estimated cost of this. I found that interesting. These are all very close.
Okay. We have before us a capital project authorization construction phase for the total amount of $2,271,335 for the Suburban Division Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station and Force Main construction phase. So it's Force Main only, right?
Yes.
That includes a construction contract to for the Force Main of Pact 1 LLC for $1,940,050. And a professional service authorization, construction phase engineering to NTEC for $85,000. And a professional services authorization for Keystone Consulting Engineer for $72,777. And an amendment 1 for professional service authorization to NTEC Engineering for $52,508. Need a motion, a second.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Mark, we got you. Thank you. And a second by Amir. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, next one under wastewater. We have Pines Island wastewater treatment plant substation number 1 and switchgear replacement. Seeking approval. It's the yellow documents in our board package, digital board package pages 44 to 59.
On a roll check.
Okay, thanks, Lizo. Amy Rohrbach is again in the spotlight on this one. This one is to replace substation number 1 and the primary switchgear at Klein's Island. That equipment is about 45 years old and is at the end of its service life. Substation 2, you'll see in the narrative, was replaced in 2019. So this is just more or less the continuation, the second phase of that project. So I'll let Amy get into the details.
Yes, we're here for capital project authorization for construction phase for $6,561,934. This includes 2 professional service authorizations for construction engineering and administration, as well as construction inspection services, and then the electrical and general construction contracts. The project was advertised on October 2nd. And we had a mandatory pre-bid on October 11th, which was pretty well attended. There were, the majority of the contract is electrical. There's a small component that is general construction, which includes some concrete slabs and fencing, minor excavation for that. We received 4 electrical construction bids and only 1 general. Our thoughts on why we didn't receive more general bids was only electrical contractors showed up at the pre-bid meeting. And it was most likely because of the long lead time on the equipment. So it's a little difficult for bidders to bid pricing on something that isn't going to happen for at least a year because of the long lead time for the substation switchgear equipment. So Phillips Brothers Electrical Contractors was the low bidder on both the electrical and the general. And this work is minimal. It's easy for them to do. They're going to do the slab work themselves. They plan on subbing out the fencing. They were the low bidder and the contractor who did substation number 2. We had a successful project. I wasn't here for that, but I hear from Phil and team, that project went well. So I don't see any reason why Phillips Brothers would not do well on this project. That this is exactly what they do. This is all in their wheelhouse. They're a very large contractor. They have the temporary equipment that we're going to need to maintain service during construction. They don't need to rent it, they own it. So that's all good news for us. The bids actually came in under the engineer's estimate, which was good news. And they were all very competitive bids. If you look at the 4 electrical bids that we received. So I think, you know, we're in good hands with Phillips Brothers. And then moving forward to the professional service authorizations, we have two before you. One is for Keystone Engineering, who's the design engineer. They will be doing the construction administration services. And then we also have another one for Borton Lawson. It was our thought that we had Borton Lawson do some on-site resident project representative construction inspection for another project, and we had really good experience with them. And they are a local firm. Their office is located in Bethlehem. So we felt that having them more accessible on site during construction to do the on-site construction inspection would be better than the design engineer, who's a little further away, and maybe not as available. Not that they're not available. I don't know if that's the right word, but just Borton Lawson did great for us, so we felt we would split this task up. So Keystone will still do the review shop drawings, and they will be there for project meetings, and they will oversee everything in that, RFIs, review schedules, prepare change orders. But Borton Lawson will be on site for the inspection and oversight of the construction tasks. So the total cost, the total authorization, capital project authorization we're asking for is $6,561,934. And you can look on your documents, the breakdown between each contract. Any questions?
I'll just add that Ford Lawson, they were the design engineer and also the construction engineer for our high service VFD replacement project at the water plant. And they did a really good job, especially in construction phase. We thought the electrical people that they send out to inspect were highly qualified, very responsive, and that's why we chose to consider them for this inspection. And there's a lot of maintenance of operation issues, needless to say, related to this project to keep all the plant processes energized while we're doing this work.
Okay, thank you. Hand raised.
I have two comments. First of all, just the context for this project, because we're going to get right into the Act 537 planning stuff. And just to give you the context that this project is really critical for us to get done now in advance of some of the pump station enhancement projects, so that we have the full both substations renewed and replaced prior to those larger draws on the system coming online with new pump station projects. On the financing side, again, I'm going to lean on Ed, but I want to point out that this project has been reviewed and approved by the city as a major capital improvement. So we will have approval of the capital cost recovery charge that will be applied to customer bills for a 30-year cost recovery period. Where the upfront funding comes from is.
Believe that, and we're testing my memory here, that we set this up as a project in 2025 and 6 that was going to come out of borrowed money again, because we were doing some extensive borrowing. Yeah, we were going to fund this initially out of borrowing, and then it was going to come back to us.
Our capital program, the 5-year capital program, included about $50 million
over 50 million
of borrowing for the city division. Yes. And this would be one of those projects that would be incorporated into that.
And if I will add, this project incorporates increased loads with respect to future work at the plant. So there is capacity built in to increase the loads for wet weather additions.
Was the other substation done the same with regard to load considerations?
Yes.
They'll both be ready for the new services required. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, we have before us capital project authorization construction phase for the Allentown Division Pines Island wastewater treatment plant electrical substation number 1 and primary switchgear replacement for a total amount of $6,561,932. And includes 2 professional service authorizations, construction engineering administration and Keystone Engineering Group of $136,858. And also construction inspection board of Lawson of $102,300. And then an electrical construction contractor with the Phillips Brothers for $4,974,999. And then general construction contractor award to Phillips Brothers also for $892,774. Gotta have projects with fewer professional organizations and general contractors. Yeah. Okay, that's the motion. I need a motion in a second for what I just said. Second, first part of it. Linda made the motion.
Second.
Second by Ted. Any questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next project. Lions Island Sewage System. Collection and a solution. We come up with a better acronym than SOS.
This is not our acronym.
Not a good start.
It's a good run.
Seeking approval, blue documents in our board package and the digital pages 60 to 66.
All right, for this one, we're going to give Chuck a break and have Phil share some perspectives on this project. And do you want me to start with the screen share right away?
Yeah, sure, the screen share.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. The last topic for today related to sewers, the selection of solution, as our case is calling it, I'll get into why they call it that. But, before we get into the actual proposal discussion, I wanted to just get a brief overview of all the consultants that have been involved with the 537. And I'll turn to Lisa to have some color commentary. This is a busy slide. You've seen this before. It's just a visual of all of the players involved. I think the first time we rolled this out was 2 years ago, so nothing much has changed. Just more of a reminder of everyone involved. I want to point out that AECOM is sitting on top of the technical lead for Kleinfelder and Jacobs and Arcadis. So all the work that those 3 I just mentioned, it's being reviewed by AECOM, so AECOM is the ultimate, they see everything. Then Aero and Raftellus are kind of in parallel with AECOM. So again, I don't want to get into any more details here unless Lisa, you want to chime in about some of the specifics.
No, I just think this slide is a good reminder of the breadth of and the power of the team that we've assembled to work on this. There's a lot of national players helping us with this project, and there's a lot of components to it. So we have a really strong team working on it. And Phil, you're going to get into kind of what each one is doing.
Yeah, I'm just going to very quickly run through what each one's doing very quickly. Aero, they were authorized almost 2 years ago to start preparing the final version of the document. So that authorization is still outstanding. They're working behind the scenes on starting to write the actual document itself. Again, they did the interim 537, so they have that shell already prepared. So nothing else pending with Arrow. Artelis, they're doing the financial analysis of 537, which is called, section 7 of the checklist. So they're on phase 2 of that analysis. Phase 3 is to follow. In addition to the section 7 analysis, they're helping Lisa with the communications support. These are, there's no real category here, it's just anyone outstanding. So NTech is also helping with stakeholder outreach, funding support. And then one has not been identified yet, which needs to be identified soon, is the legal aspect. That's gonna come very quickly in next year. So that's TBD. AECOM, again, they're sitting on top of the technical side. They have the project manager role that was authorized back last May. They have a risk register that they're to start to create. It's gonna be a living document. It's gonna identify all the risks associated with each recommended solution. So again, that's gonna be a living document. Will just be more to follow on that later. And they're also working, AJ got them authorized last month for the pretreatment plant, near-term improvements. And with that, they're also looking at renewable natural gas as part of the whole big picture. So they are quite busy. Pending the small authorization for environmental justice. That is a requirement of, remember, we are going to be constructing a parallel interceptor in the city from about the water plant down to Klein's Island. And there are pieces that are impacted by the environmental justice protocol. So they're gonna come up with a playbook to help us with that piece. Hiccups, they're helping with the PTP solution, which I'll get into in a little bit. But they're working on that. Kleinfelder, again, they're working on Klein's Island, as needed, and we just wrapped up the last I&I project that the city made a commitment to the EPA. So that's that year 4 job. And again, they're doing the first year of the SRP for the city. Arcadis, they're doing a lot of small things on the left-hand side. They're doing manhole inspections. They're starting the first package of the manhole design, which will come out in Q1 of next year. And then on the right-hand side, it's hard to see here, but that selection of solution is what we're gonna be talking about now. So that's the pending authorization. So all the consultants are very busy. And my job is to make sure they're all marching along to the same beat, which is half the battle. But we've made a ton of progress since we last spoke. Particularly about the last time we spoke about Arcadis. So the last time Arcadis was brought before the board was in April of this year. And that was for the final alternatives analysis, the FAA. So we had these acronyms for every phase of the work we're in. So the selection of solution was identified back in 2019 as a way to put a bow on all the planning activities. It's a little bit misleading since it's not really selecting a solution per se. It's helped write the plan with the recommended solutions. So it's a little misleading, but for consistency purposes, we want to call this last phase something. So it's a selection of solution phase. So what the actual authorization will entail, you can see it in the proposal. It's broken down by 8 different tasks, and the main takeaway is that they're going to be on-call support for the signatories if they want it for their source reduction plans. The source reduction plans are due by July. So whatever the municipalities want to submit to DEP, they have until July to finalize. So if they need Arcadis' help with the model, they can ask. One thing that we haven't talked a lot about, we're going to talk about in Q1, is what's been happening with the PTP and where that's going to land. Within this authorization, there's going to be the task for the segregating some flow.
And what that means is potentially separating some of the high strength industries via pump station force main. So there's been this modeling work associated with that concept of separation of flows and loads and bypassing some of the plan. So there'll be more discussions about that. If you remember right now, anything above the PTP, anything above the PTP flows through the PTP. So that doesn't have to occur. That's just the way it was set up back 40 years ago. So we could bypass the domestic strength users or some of the smaller industries around the PTP. So there's modeling work associated with that. There's modeling work associated, not so much modeling work, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work needed for Raftellus to help with their analysis for Section 7. There's a bunch of different ways to handle the cost sharing pieces. And they need some of the information from the model. So you can see there's something called flow miles. One way to change the cost sharing is to use where you are physically in the system, based on how far your sewage flows. That's what the flow miles comes in. So our case will help with that. And of course, they're going to help with, Aero is going to put the whole package together, but we're going to need the input from the technical leads. So there's a little bit of money for Arcadis to come up with a technical write-up for their section. And then there's, miscellaneous meetings and workshops. So that's what the selection solution is. Again, it's the title's a tad misleading, but let's go for it. What I want to have happen is, well, this will be the last time Arcadis is going to be authorized for the 537. There's going to be a lot of indirect work, in the future, but this will be the last major piece for Arcadis for the 537. And so I think we're still on track. And of course, these last 10 months are going to be the most difficult. But I still want to have it done by September 24. So there's two main pieces left is the PTP and it's the cost sharing. So that's a lot to get done in 10 months. But that's what we're still planning to do. So that being said, my capital project authorization is for $125,000 to Arcadis, $20,000 for staff, $20,000 for contingency, for a total of $165,000. And some of this work was started previously under his old FAA authorization. He didn't use all that up, so he was able to get a jump start on this. Entertain any questions?
I forgot when the 537 plan has to be in.
Back in 2019, we told DEP we would give it to them in March 2025.
Oh,
So that means that that's a minimum of 6 months to go through the municipal process. That's why I keep on saying September 24.
okay.
So it's backwards, yeah.
Any other questions on the board? Okay,
I have a comment.
finger raise.
Yes, seem to have a comment about all of these. For this one, I just wanted to make sure the board is aware. There's a lot of work that's going on. We asked Phil to do a rather brief review today because we have a long agenda, but in January, we do expect to come back with some review of the cost sharing and legal agreement type concepts that we're working on. So that will be probably a lively discussion.
Good.
And I anticipate
Order that one.
and I do anticipate the PTP discussion occurring in February or earlier.
Interesting. Okay, we have before us a capital plan authorization, GIFT Act 537 selection of solutions for the planning phase. That includes for a total amount of $165,000 that includes a professional service authorization to Arcadis for $125,000. In a second.
So moved.
Motion by Linda,
Second,
and Ted for a second. Thank you for chiming in. Okay, any questions? Anybody has? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Sigh of relief.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for all the presentations. All right, we have on our agenda monthly project updates. This white page has been our board packet, and its digital page is 67 to 74.
All right, this will be quick. This is our last meeting of the year. Everything in the report in the first section, we've just finished reviewing. So we have nothing, we don't have a second meeting this month. I have nothing additional to share. Just want to highlight that the monthly financial report and the monthly ops report will go out to you and be posted on the website in the meeting. It'll be publicly available, and then we'll get back in the swing of things in January with the regular reports on presentation comments. If there's any questions on any of the projects that are listed here.
Any questions?
I do want to point out on the open project list that's 4 or 5 pages long, that we have the most basic information here in terms of category, title, division, who's working on it, what planning project phase it's in. But this potentially, depending on how AJ's project rolls out, could morph into something different because it's duplicative of the project tracking that he's doing in the new class list. So yeah, for something potentially next year.
All right, thank you.
Yep, first.
Any further staff comments?
I have just 2 very brief ones. First of all, I should have done this at the beginning, but welcome Kevin Reed to his first official meeting as our solicitor.
Thank you.
And
Sure made you talk.
And also his cohort, Rich Campbell, who you've met previously. The two of them, Rich and Kevin, have been working pretty closely with me and the staff to get a lot of outstanding items transitioned. So Kevin's quickly getting up to speed on all of that. So welcome aboard, Kevin, and thank you, Rich, for your support. Second item is just a holiday greeting to the entire board and staff and our guests online. This is our last meeting of the year. We've accomplished an awful lot this year, so appreciate the support from everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, end of staff comments?
That's it.
Solicitor comments?
Yeah, just really briefly, just thank you for the board. We are thankful for the opportunity to continue to engage with LCA and its staff and the board, so we're thankful for that. I've personally had the opportunity to work with LCA and other capacities since back in 2008, and I really appreciate the organization, so thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. So I've been a solicitor for a variety of different entities since the mid-90s. Been with the firm since that time. Previous to that, I was a judicial law clerk here in Lehigh County. Educationally, I'm a graduate of Villanova University School of Law.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
My dog's there now.
And undergrad was at Dartmouth College. And I also do a fair amount of public finance work. So that was my previous connection with the authority was through public finance, and have worked with Ed on numerous projects over those years, and a variety of other municipalities and water and sewer authorities in that capacity as bond counsel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we open up the floor to any public comments on any topics whatsoever. Anybody from the public wish to say anything?
I have no comments. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, Brian. Glad you're here. Okay, board comments, any questions or comments that the board wishes to make?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, yes. I do want to acknowledge, Liesl had given in the interview, actually it was quite a long presentation online. It was made available to the board members, but you did an excellent job and it was really informative. And if anybody else has an opportunity, can you tell what was the program? I don't remember.
It was, it's a radio program called Good Morning Lehigh Valley, and hosted by a longtime friend of LCA, Brad Osborne, who's former county commissioner. And he invited me on. He does a weekly talk show on Tuesdays, and we spend a bunch of time talking about water and sewer and what's going on in Lehigh County, and able to share a little bit of our story about our mission and some of the great projects we have going on. So appreciated the invitation.
It was very well done, and Brad did a very nice job
Yes, he
too.
did.
Just, and he was well prepared.
Yes, we worked together a little bit on some of the content, but he threw me a couple of curveballs, which is makes it fun.
Okay, it was very good.
Thank you.
All right, at this point in time, we're going to adjourn this meeting. We're going to go into an executive session after this, a separate Zoom meeting, which everybody should have information on. And for the purposes of security issues and also. Thank you, everybody, and happy holidays.
What time do you want everything?
Oh, that's right. Make that 10 minutes. How's that? 10 after 2.
All right.